Hey everybody, this is Mitch here, your logical libertarian. And I'd like to discuss something with you that is extremely important to me. Um, it's about voting in local elections. Now, for those of you who don't know, um, very few people actually vote in local elections, so county and city elections. Usually, the most common votes are in presidential elections, and then occasionally you'll get state elections every 2 years in between them. So every off year, or the midterm is what they would be called. Those are the two most popular elections, state and federal. However, local elections are just they seem to be typically ignored. They're oftentimes not taken seriously. People don't get informed on them or participate very often, and it's kind of just left in the dust. It's unfortunate. That said, they're extremely important for reasons I'm going to explain to you. Now, the first thing I want to go over is the statistics I was talking about, with voter turnout plummeting, going down. This is an article by the Governing, and they go over how, the example is in LA, and I'm from California, and I think Los Angeles is a good sample for not just the United States, but also just major cities in general and major counties where a lot of laws, regulations, and crimes not only happen, but where they come from. You get a lot of elected officials, especially to state assemblies and to the House of Representatives for the federal level. They come from these pools, and a lot of them get their start as mayor or a local judge, district attorney, sheriff, police chief, city council, county supervisor, controller. They get a lot of their experience from those localized positions, and they're really important because you can shape who goes where, and you can learn about these people well before they end up going way deep into the higher up elections. But as you can see in the LA area, and that's pretty, I would assume it's pretty consistent for the entire nation, but about 1/5, so about 20 to 25% at the most, of registered voters actually voted, and that's registered voters. That's not of people who can vote, like who are of voting age and can register to vote if they wanted. That's of people who are registered. But apparently, it's been kind of slowly declining, as you can see here in this graph. It shows that it was about just over a quarter of people who could vote, who could register, who were legal age and legal citizens, turned out, and it's been declining with a little bit of rise back in 2011. This article's a bit old, so it doesn't cover the last couple of years, which the last couple of years we did have larger turnout, but even then it wasn't significant. It was a lot closer to the 2001 number. So we still are in that 1/5 to 1/4 range, which is not very much. And it states here that these numbers also reflect the city, so local votes. And this is based off of 144 large cities in the U.S. This was done by the University of Wisconsin. So this includes cities like LA and New York and Boston, most likely Chicago. You name it. More than likely the major cities. A major city near you is going to reflect these kinds of numbers. But as you can see, it's getting bad. People just aren't really paying attention to it, and it has repercussions. We'll look over here too at just regular voter turnout. Now this is comparing it to the total voter turnout, which it did again come back to be pretty high in the last election. Between 2014 and 2018, it wasn't all that great, but for for everything, it has come back for the presidential stuff. But as you can see, we had that dip for a long time. We had that dip. As you can see, voter turnout. And again, this is of people who are registered. This isn't of people who are capable. So as you got that, you have the examples there of voter turnout, which could be higher. This is why I'm bringing it up. This article, I saw it a few days ago, and it was that a young girl was raped by a bus driver and was not sent to prison. Now, any of you who might be modern feminists or consider themselves progressives would say, "Oh, of course, it's white privilege and male privilege and patriarchy," but that's not the issue, because these local elections, these local judges, they're not all in the same club. They don't all know each other. They're local judges from the local population. That's us. That's you. That's your city. That's your county. Now, this person pleaded guilty to third-degree rape, which makes no sense. But instead of going to prison, as the victim's family had hoped for, he got sentenced to 10 years probation. He's assigned the lowest level of sex offender. And the reason being, there was only, quote-unquote, one victim, and they had no prior arrests. Of course, I'm bringing up stuff about Brock Turner, but as you can see, this was done according to an official with the state Supreme Court in Jefferson City. So even if it was done at the state level, that's still a local, considerably local election. And there's no accountability there. Now, let's ask ourselves, again, it was a plea deal. Took a plea deal. We can take a look at this justice. We can take a look and see Justice McCluskey. He is the Supreme Court of the 5th Judicial District in Jefferson County. So this is a local election. And let's look at one other thing too. So as we look, this is the definition under the Louisiana law. And it's typically deemed as incapable with people who are incapable of giving consent, whether it be that they are underage, incapacitated, or believe someone who is having sex with them is another person, a mistaken identity. So it's effectively rape without force or coercion, but instead it is sex under false pretenses or with someone who can't consent. And essentially, this person had sex with a minor. It wasn't just a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, it was a 14-year-old. And even if she believes that she had consented to it, it's still not good. Whether or not it was under the grounds of seeming to be consensual. And this is from a local election. Every single case you get like this, where someone is not put away due to a judge give them a lighter sentence, comes down to local elections. The issues with Flint and their water comes down to local elections. The issues with schools and school boards and education and not having enough money comes down to local elections. The cutting of programs, local elections. And the other thing is, cases like this also go to a jury sometimes. And the jury is also accountable. You as a citizen need to be accountable. When you see this stuff and this stuff makes you upset, you need to hold yourself accountable and actually participate in our society, in our republic, in our law, because you as a citizen are not only guaranteed the right to, but it is your civic duty to do so. When you cease to exercise it, you will lose it. Just like muscles, just like your brain. Cease to exercise it, you will slowly lose it. Now, this has been a very brief live stream, but it's a topic I really wanted to touch on because I feel very strongly about it. And it's just sad because people don't pay attention to this stuff, and then they wonder where people like AOC come from. They wonder where people, like Obama come from. Or anybody. These people were things before. Bush. George W. Bush Jr., president from 2001 to 2009. He was governor of Texas before he was president. More localized elections. It's knowing these candidates, paying attention to them before you cast your vote. And the reason why a lot of people don't partake in local elections is because they don't have the party, alignment. They don't just look for an R or a D and then can make a vote based off that. Instead, they have to actually research the candidates. Talk to the candidates, and that's something that a lot of people just don't want to do. And I get you're busy, but you really need to research. You really need to participate in this, because Letting these things slip is how people like that, judges like that, get elected, who then let criminals slip by when they shouldn't. Anyway, I've been your logical libertarian. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment what you think, and always use your brain.